All right, hello everybody. Today is a deck tech for Anax, Hardened in the Forge. He is a 3-mana legendary creature, enchantment creature, demigod. His power and toughness are equal to our devotion to red. He's going to be featured in the matches in my next video. So whenever another non-token creature dies, you get a 1/1 satyr that can't block. And if the creature's power or toughness is 4 or greater, you get 2 of those creatures tokens instead. He is a star 3, so his power is equal to your devotion to red. So we're going to start out with the creatures in the deck, and it's fairly creature heavy. We have a few colorless creatures in the Stone Coil Serpent. Just being in mono red, it's nice to curve out, and it fits at 1, it fits at 2, it fits at 3, it fits all the way up the curve. Then at 2, we have the Careless Celebrant. It can trade up really well. It also trades down pretty bad, but it can also be 2 for 1. If they block with a 1/1, you can kill their 2/2 or 3/2 as well. The Embrass Shieldbreaker, destroying an artifact, is great. And then it's just a 2/1 after. It's just a little body. The Kargan Intimidator, lots of different abilities. Cowards can't block warriors. It's a really old effect, but it's a cool one. And then the Rimrock Knight, being able to give a creature +2/+0 at instant speed is great, and then having a 3/1 on the other end is kind of a 2 for 1 card. The Robber of the Rich, if you're dumping your cards, playing all the 1s and 2s that I have in the deck, you can be drawing cards from their side. Then we have 6 of the 7 dwarves featured in our deck. I thought 7 was just too much, and the 6s seem to be a right number to be able to draw them, to have 2 mana 3/3s quite a bit of the time. And they're not that effective on their own, but by themselves, with their partners, they get pretty big. We have the Bone Crusher Giant, which is an instant that deals 2 unpreventable damage, and is a 4/3 that when it gets targeted, it deals 2 damage to that spell's controller, including yourself. So you have to watch out. I've died by casting Infuriate on it when I was at 2, but that was just how it was. Ash Phoenix has got haste. You can bring it back when your cards die. Being able to use your graveyard in some way in a mono red deck is really cool. And the fact that it's only 3 other cards, you can usually get it back once a game if it gets into the graveyard. Crystalline Giant, wall of text, but basically beginning of combat on your turn. It gets flying, first strike, death touch, hexproof, lifelink, menace, reach, trample, vigilance, or a 1/1 counter. And it's random, and you put the counter on it, and so every time it gets bigger. But if it does end up getting hexproof, the game is usually over. Followed with the Everquill Phoenix. I'm still figuring out Mutate. I didn't really play a lot during the whole Mutate thing, but it's a very powerful effect, I know. You get a 1 mana sacrifice feather artifact, returning a phoenix from your graveyard to the battlefield. We have a couple with the Ash Cloud and the Everquill. Then the Leyline Tyrant. So you get to maintain your mana in your mana pool turn after turn after turn, and then when it dies, you can pay that amount of red and deal a bunch of damage. It's a 4 mana 4/4. It's great. Ogre Battle Driver. When a creature enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste. So it's a haste engine for the deck. There are not a lot of haste enablers that I think are decent in the format. This is probably the best. And yeah, it can turn anything into a threat right away. Opportunistic Dragon, another way to deal with pesky artifacts until it dies. And there are quite a few humans that are very effective, so being able to steal those is good. It would probably be better if we had some kind of sacrifice effect, but just getting something out of the way to deal lethal is great. Tectonic Giant. It's a 3/4, and when it attacks or becomes the target of a spell an opponent controls, you can either deal 3 damage to each opponent, or you can exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. So it's card draw in red, which you don't get. Torbon makes all your creatures hit harder. Plus, he gives a lot of devotion to Anax. So for 1 generic and 3 red mana, he makes any source of red, the whole deck minus 4 cards, deal 2 more damage. So it just makes your little 1/1s that could from Anax hit that much harder. Solemn, a little bit of ramp, card draw, 4 mana 2/2. When he enters the battlefield, you can get a basic land tapped, and when he dies, you can draw a card. Then we have the top end of the Brash Taunter, indestructible. People like to play big decks. If you watched my last Brawl featuring the Mono Green Commander, you know that there's a lot of big creatures in this format. So for this guy to be able to fight something and then deal that much damage to the opponent, it's easy to deal 6, 7, 8, 15 damage sometimes to your opponents. And Terror of the Peaks, just a beast, 5/5 flyer, costs 3 life to to target it. So if they want to kill it without with a removal spell, they have to pay 3, which is your goal in Mono Red, to get them to 0 as fast as possible. And then when another creature enters the battlefield, you can deal any amount of damage. You can deal the damage equal to its power to any target. So it just is a damage calculator, plus it's a big threat that people have to deal with. Instant and sorceries: Infuriate, 1 mana plus 3/2, get in that extra damage. Shock, 2 mana to any 2 damage to any target. A land that also deals 1 damage, so if you need it early, you can just play the land, or you can snipe a little 1 mana or a 1 toughness creature. Perforos's Intervention, so basically 2 mana deal 2, or 3 mana deal 4, 4 mana deal 6. It scales really nicely, and if you just need some big finisher in the end, you can create an X1 with trample and haste. And then we have Fiery Prophecy, 3 damage to a creature, kind of virtual card draw selection. You can put a card from your hand that you're not going to use on the bottom, draw something new that you might need. 2 Omen Forge, flash enchantment, dealing 2 damage to any target, and you can pay 3 to scry 2, which is a rare effect in red. So the ability to scry 2 after you've killed something or dealt some extra damage is quite nice. Raking Claws, it's 2 mana, gives something double strike. You can get a big Anax hit in, or if you need a card and you're stuck on mana, you can just cycle it and draw. Scorching Dragonfire, 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker, and the exile ability in this case is more important than you think. And so you can get rid of a Pexky creature, or you can deal some damage with something else and then finish it with this, and then they can't get it back for Reanimator. Arcane Signet, ramp in red, doesn't come very often, so you need to kind of get what you can. You can artifacts, but we're trying to keep the curve fairly low, so the 2 mana one works. 3 mana, we're not really looking to ramp to 4. We're looking to ramp to 3 if we miss a land drop. This is great. Shatter Skull Smashing, dealing X damage to 2 divided amongst 2 creatures, or if 6 or more, you deal twice that much. I haven't cast it for 6 yet, but just the ability to deal 2 and 1 and kill 2 things, or 2 and 2 to kill 2 things, or kill 1 big thing, or if you're stuck on lands, you can play it as a mana. At 3, we have Flame Spill, dealing 4 damage to a creature, and any excess goes to the player. Kazul's Fury, so we can make a big Anax or a big any creature that we have, or if you need to deal damage and then you attack, you get them down to a small amount of damage, you can throw something at them and kill them. Or early game, you can have a land that comes into play tapped. Slaying Fire always hits for 4. It's 3 mana, 4 damage. The Adamant cards I think are great in all the single color decks. Valakut Awakening, card draw, putting something on the bottom, drawing that many cards, +1. So if you put 0, you could draw 1. So it could be 3 mana draw card if you need it, or it's 3 mana, whatever you need. Or if you need a land early, you can play it as a land. Last 2 main deck cards are Song, Mad Treachery. Gaining control of a creature at 5 mana. Sometimes it just gets the one thing you need out of the way. Or you play it as a land early game. So it's good late, it's good early, it's just good. And last but not least, arguably one of my favorite cards in the set, in Standard and in Brawl, is Embercleave. I love Mono Red in Standard right now, and in, to be honest, in any format right now. And I love any deck that plays Embercleave. So it is the final card in the deck. We have a few lands. We have the Castle Embrath. It comes into play tapped unless you control a mountain. Adds a red. Gives you 2 red mana, and for 2 red mana and a colorless, you can give your creatures +1/+0. So you can give them an Anthem-ish effect for that. Or the Dwarven Mine comes into play untapped if you have 3 or more mountains. I've taken this in and out and in and out. I don't know if I like it. It's frustrating when it's your second or third land, and really when it's your 4th land, I don't know if the 1/1 is worth it. Maybe in some decks it is. I don't know about this one, but it's in here for now. 16 mountains and a Fabled Passage. So that's 19 regular lands plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the spell lands. So we're looking at like 20, quite a few lands, 24 lands for a Mono Red deck. But a lot of those lands, 5 of those lands can be used as a spell. So that is my Anax Hardened in the Forge. If you want to take a look at the battles, click on the link. I'm not sure if it's going to be on the right or the left, but there will be a link in the description, and there'll be somewhere to click at the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy the battles to come. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.